guys, welcome back. I have another book review for you today, and this was not the happy, uplifting book that I had hoped to read, but it was a very good book. So this week I actually read Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by Dee Brown. This was published in 1971, so it is 49 years old. And I ended up giving this book 5 stars, as you can see over here. And that is the first nonfiction book that I've ever given 5 stars to. And I'm not going to say that it's not kind of wordy at some points, kind of difficult to read at some points. I'm not going to say it's like the best written book I ever read, but I think this book definitely achieved its purpose. It wanted to tell you the story of, like it says, an Indian history of the Southwest or of the West. And that's what it does. It tells you the story of Native Americans in the Southwest fighting to stay in their ancestral homelands. And this book was probably the most difficult book that I've ever read. It made me sad, it made me angry, it made me absolutely ashamed, and it told me how much I didn't know. I didn't know so much about this time period. This is going to cover 1860 to 1890. So it's not the entire Native American removal process. We know that in the Southeast that happened a lot earlier. But this is the plains and further west out to California, down to Arizona, that whole area. And it is like 30 years of absolute chaos. And it's so sad, and I do want to say that I am sorry that I did not know so much of this. That I can blame that on my Louisiana public school education, but I have been out of school for a very long time. I have had ample opportunity to learn more, and I have not. So I do apologize for that. I knew some of these names, I knew some of these battles, I knew very small pieces of a much larger puzzle, and I will continue to learn more. I'm not just going to stop learning about this and stop learning more because I finished this book. This book will stay with me for a long time. And I'm going to give you just a very brief synopsis. The book is only like 19 chapters, which doesn't sound very long, but there's so much information packed into these chapters. So Dee Brown uses a lot of direct quotes. That's pretty much all of his sources are direct quotes, and like quotes of like different laws and things like that. And that's like very big because you see what people were exactly what people were saying, or exactly how it was recorded. During a lot of this, they would have council meetings between like the Indian agents, fort commanders, and the Native Americans themselves, and a lot of those were like very well recorded, so you can just pull quotes and see exactly what was going on. So I will say, in this book, you're going to recognize some names. You're going to recognize names like Geronimo, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, General Sherman, George Custer, General Sheridan, Ulysses S. Grant. And there's going to be other names that maybe you don't know. Black Kettle, Red Cloud, Spotted Elk, Bigfoot, Colonel Chivington. There's going to be all of these people, and there's so many players in this, and I could not tell you about every single one of them. We would be here for a very long time. But I will say that it's so interesting and so sad to hear or to read their own words, because sometimes the generals who were working in the forts, or who were working for like the Indian agency, for the government, they were so horrible to these people. And then you have these chiefs that are saying these great eloquent speeches, and it's just so devastating. And what happened was so devastating. This is not a happy, uplifting book. I spent a lot of time like flipping back and forth between the book itself on my Kindle because it's free on Kindle Unlimited, and like just Wikipedia-ing people, which I know that's not a good source, but I wanted to know when they died, if the commanders and the Indian agents and everything had any repercussions for what they did. Spoiler alert, they did not. If these chiefs and their wives and the people that we're talking about actually survived. Another spoiler, a lot of times they did not. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to read this. And there's quite a few massacres mentioned here. One of them was Sand Creek, which was with the Cheyenne under Black Kettle. And then the most well-known one, I think, is probably the massacre at Wounded Knee, which was Bigfoot and the Lakota, and over 200 of them were killed, men, women, and children, at the massacre at Wounded Knee. And in a lot of these cases, it's not just men, they're killing everyone in these camps, so men, women, and children. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking, it's absolutely devastating, and it's so difficult to believe that your government did that. I don't think that you can say, oh, well, just because it happened, you know, in the 1800s. No, like, people have been people since long before the 1800s. And guys, I struggled with this book. I did. I thought it was so sad. There were times when I was just so angry. And I just wanted to know, like, why I never learned this and why, like, it's just glossed over in a history class. Like, why isn't this something that everyone learns? And I do not have an answer for you there, but I will say I believe that everyone should read books like this. I don't necessarily say like everyone should read this particular book, but everyone should read books like this. If you're reading nonfiction, you already know the outcome a lot of the time. In a lot of the books that I've been reading for you guys, like, I already knew the outcome. I knew what happened in Waco. I knew that Jack the Ripper was never caught. Like, I already knew the end result. And in this case, I already knew the end result, but I didn't know everything that led up to it. And like, nonfiction books can be really hard to read sometimes, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't read them. If they take you out of your comfort zone, you should read them, because that's such a big part of learning and growing, is stepping out of your comfort zone, reading something that makes you sad, reading something that makes you angry, reading something that makes you rethink what you already know. And I think that that's really what this book did for me. It made me see how much I didn't know, and I was just beside myself for so many parts of it. So I do think, read a book like this. If you're not American, your country probably has books like this about something that's happened. I know that Canada had similar things done to their First Nations people. I know that when the United Kingdom was growing as an empire, there was so much, a lot of the colonialism was just horrible. So, like, wherever you're from, you will be able to find a book that tells the other side that you don't learn in history class or anything like that. And it might be really, really, really difficult for you to read, but you should read it anyway. If you just hate to read, and you're watching this because I'm funny sometimes or something, like, watch a documentary, but like, just know that every, you know, side is going to be a little bit biased, but definitely look into things that make you uncomfortable. That's one of the reasons that I'm reading nonfiction and sharing it with you guys, is because I think that it's important to learn more than just the basic facts. And I think that it's important to step out of your comfort zone. So I'm sorry that this review is not very upbeat and not very, like, exciting and, like, excited, but just know I am so glad that I read this book, and I will continue to learn about this subject and about other subjects surrounding it. And I will just, like I said, I will continue to learn. If you have any books about this or about anything else like this, tell me, send them to me, like, let me know and I will read them. But next week, I promise, I've already picked the book. I promise I will have a very upbeat, well, maybe not upbeat, but like a different type of book. It will not be as sad, but I hope that you guys have a great week. I hope that I see you again next week. So, bye.